And welcome back to RC Truth Media. Today is December 5th, 2018, and we're going to get right into some news for everyone out there. What has America done to its young people? Why is it so hard for young people to succeed nowadays? It seems like there's so many problems going on with declining SAT scores, obesity, drug overdose, addiction to smartphones, bizarre alterations of appearances, and high rates of mental illness. Right? It's just too easy to be annoyed at some of these young people, looking at them with these piercings all over their faces. Some of them seem unable to carry on conversations. They're just on their phones all the time. It's not like it used to be. Well, could this be because government policies? Yeah. First of all, let's talk about the number one issue, why this is going on, why it's so hard for young people to succeed. If we go on the inflationcalculator.com and look at 1913, right? $20 in 1913 when the Federal Reserve System started was worth $510 today, considering the rate of inflation, okay, adjusting for that. Now let's talk about 1970. Dollars in 1970 would be worth $130 today. Okay, so about 6 times as much, a little bit more. Look at when I was born, 1989. So basically, whatever you could buy worth the $20 in 1989, it takes double that today. So a pack of cigarettes is going to cost twice as much. Everything is going to cost twice as much as when I was born. I'm now 30 years old almost. Now let's go on and check out more reasons why millennials like myself, it's harder and harder to succeed. Okay, so let's talk about some of these government policies. Oh, George H.W., huh? It's a national day of mourning for him, so I'm not going to say anything bad. Just going to say that we are all people, we are all connected, and I do love everyone. Okay? Wink, wink. Let's begin at the beginning. 40% of Americans are now born out of wedlock. What does this mean? Single-parent families are associated with a long list of social maladies. Yeah, children, let's face it, today there's a good chance that you're only going to have one parent, and most likely that's going to be the mother. Children who grow up with only one of their biological parents, nearly always the mother, are disadvantaged across a broad array of outcomes. Can you guess why? The dad's not there. They're going to get away with a lot more things most of the time. The mom's more passive on a lot of stuff. This makes a lot of the men act more feminine. We can see a lot of things that happen when you don't have the dad around. They depend more on somebody. Okay, they're going to depend more on somebody if they only have their mom. Okay, because the mother usually depends on other people as well. They need a lot of friends. See, the man, they can be by themselves. They're independent. Women, they usually need people to talk to. They need comfort. I'm just stating statistics right here. It's not always, but just saying statistics. Okay, so let's see. That's just one reason. What does it say here? They are twice as likely to drop out of high school. 2.5 times as likely to become teen mothers, 1.4 times as likely to be idle, out of school and out of work. As children who grow up with both parents are more likely to go to school and go to work. Children in one-parent families also have lower grade point averages, lower college aspirations, and poor attendance records. As adults, they have higher rates of divorce. These parents persist even after adjusting for difference in race, parents, education, number of siblings, and residential location. In addition, a large number of marriages will fail. That means that close to 60% of children will not grow up in the classic nuclear family in the 1950s. How much of this change is due to government policies is hard to say. However, as government grows, the traditional family shrinks. When government subsidies to single-parent families increase, so do the number of such families. As Jack Kemp used to say, when you subsidize something, you get more of it. Yes, culture also plays a role, but don't forget that government can change the culture as well. Women tend to come out ahead in family court. They get the house, the kids, and much of the man's spare change thanks to unrealistic support formulas. This provides an incentive in marginal cases for women to seek divorce. Increases in divorce made them more socially acceptable over time. Even with the intact families, the idyllic norm of the 1950s, where the mother typically stayed home to take care of the kids until they reached school age and perhaps even long afterwards, has been destroyed. These days, in the typical American family, both parents work full time, which means that on a very large percentage of children are consigned to daycare. That's right, both of my kids go to daycare. I went to daycare. My brother went to daycare, and before that, they didn't. My parents did not go to daycare. They stayed home. So it started with my generation. Daycare was virtually unknown in my world growing up in the 1960s, as it says here. On the working class South Buffalo Street where I grew up, I don't recall any mothers with young children working full time. The overwhelming majority were housewives, while a few would get part-time jobs after the kids started school. You know why? Because the money was worth so much more back then, and you didn't need two people to go to work to pay for all the bills. Now you do. Why did they do that? Why did they um, devalue the money? Well, if you go back in our history books, this all had to do with making, after the civil rights era, they wanted to make blacks and whites not so marginalized. They wanted to bring the middle class, because everybody was so marginalized. The wealth gap was so wide. There was so many poor people, and most of them were blacks. You know, you had white poor people too, but then you had the 1%, maybe the 5% or so that made billions and millions, and then you had the majority of poor people, and they tried to make this gap after the civil rights era. They tried to bring more equality to the nation in all ways, and they tried to bring the wealth gap closer. They tried to make a bigger middle class, and they succeeded in doing this, but also they made it harder for one person to take care of the whole family. Because when they did this, they devalued the money system. They took gold away from the money. In 1970, Nixon took gold away from the money, and made the dollar a total fiat currency system. And since then, we have seen the damage ever since then. Two people had to go to work, the man and the woman, and we have seen the destruction of the household, of the family unit. And now we see what's going on. They didn't want to do this. LBJ, he did not want this to happen. He wanted the blacks to be more wealthy. He wanted just basically equality, and he didn't see this happening, right? FDR, do you think he saw all this happening? You know, Roosevelt with his New Deal programs. Nah, he didn't know. What New Deal was when he wanted Social Security to happen and all this stuff, and so they created the credit cycle, which in turn made our money system devalue. Okay, so that's just giving you a little bit of history right there. But the statistics bear this out. Daycare was once unusual for the middle class. Now, over 2/3 of children lack a full-time stay-at-home parent. Like single-parent families, daycare carries with it a long list of undesirable, likely consequences. These include more mental and behavioral problems, more mind-altering drugs, more STDs, more obese, unhappy, and institutionalized children of all ages. Home Alone America, they called it. Okay, that's true. If you go to daycare, you're more likely to see all of these things. These drugs, these STDs, these behavioral problems. Because why? Daycare leads to school, and in school, high school, you're going to see all of this stuff. Thus, in the critical first 5 years of life, the vast majority of Americans are deprived of the obvious benefits of growing up in an intact family with the mother at home in the preschool years. The baby boomers took this for granted. That world is gone with the wind. Why? Two main reasons he suggests: feminism and progressive big government. Definitely helped with this, that's for sure. Feminism encouraged women to get out of the home and out from under the alleged control of husbands. But also, so did the devaluation of the money, and they needed more money to pay for everything. That definitely encouraged it more than feminism. But both of these, I agree, definitely have played their part. Okay, so now once you get these women and the feminist movement, traditional mothers were derided as baby factories, as if working in an actual factory making widgets was somehow more edifying than nurturing human beings at home. Second, the trend toward ever larger and more intrusive big government that started in the progressive era around 1916 hadn't yet weighed down the economy to the extent that two incomes were needed to support a family in the 50s and 60s. Yet government grows steadily under progressive ideology, and after the twin shocks of the Great Society and the Vietnam War, by the 1970s, stagflation kicked in, and it became increasingly difficult to support a family with one income. That's what I was talking about when the money supply watered down. Married women, whether they liked it or not, or were under the sway of feminist ideology, were pushed into the labor market, if only to have most of their wages seized to pay the dozens of taxes the family must pay. So that's what happened, the devaluation of the money, but it gets worse. After 5 years of being raised by strangers and deprived of maternal care, 90% of American youth are compelled to attend government schools for 12 to 13 years. Government schools are rife with crime, drugs, promiscuity, mediocre education, and political propaganda. Next comes college for about 70% of Americans. Finally, we send this disadvantaged group of young Americans into a very hostile job market. But what happens before this job market in college? Well, they get taught this leftism ideology. Okay, I'm in school right now at Fresno City College, and they are completely, all my teachers, leftists. I think they only hire leftists in California. While many young people thrive in college, many others graduate with huge debt and poor job prospects, and a hard left ideology poorly suited for success in life. Leftism teaches resentment of others, inculcates a victim mentality, and teaches some students to hate their skin color, while teaching others to blame the skin color of others for the difficulties they will face in life. Leftism does not inculcate the positive thinking, initiative, work ethic, and perseverance in the face of adversity, which are the hallmarks of successful people. That's right. You know, in these colleges, you get left after you just got done with a political science class or a journalism class. You get left thinking that white people are bad. That's what they teach, that white people are basically horrible people and they did really bad things, you know, and they don't look at the whole situation for what's going on from both perspectives. Okay, they don't look at both sides of the view, they just look at the left's view, in my opinion. Okay, and that's true. So what else? Finally, they send this disadvantaged group of young Americans into a very hostile job market where they saddle them with their per capita share of government debt as the guarantors of the fraudulent campaign promises of dead progressive politicians such as Roosevelt and LBJ, which I was talking about earlier. A good account could figure out how this debt translates into increased per capita taxes by dividing the number of taxpayers by the annual debt service. So yeah, that's all they're doing, is just getting stuck into this debt system and paying these big government agendas and these policies for this welfare system. That's what it's turned into, is growing this federal government and making the people poorer and poorer and sucking the real wealth from the people. But guess what? This system is about over, about done. That's why we see these cryptos coming out, Bitcoin. We see everybody talking about and nervous about what's going to happen with the stock market. You know, why? Our dollar is worth pretty much nothing, and we are the world's reserve currency, so they all look up to us, and that's why everybody else is crashing. All the other currencies are crashing. We're going to be the last ones to crash, but you could still see what's happening to us right now. Our dollar is worth 1913 $20. Today is worth that same $20. Okay, in order to get $20 of the value today, it would take $530.
to make up that same $20. That's how much they've devalued our currency. Thanks a lot for joining me. I hope you stayed till the end. It was a long video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Have a great day.